The Great Hall of Thesser Prime was the most beautiful place in the known galaxy. Crystal pillars rose 300 meters into the air. Light from distant stars filtered through walls made of living glass. Representatives from 100 species sat in floating chairs that adjusted to their bodies. This was where the powerful gathered. This was where the future of civilizations was decided. Ambassador Elena Vasquez walked into this hall with her head held high. She was a small woman with gray hair and sharp eyes. Behind her walked a team of human engineers in simple gray uniforms. They looked plain compared to the colorful robes and shimmering scales of the alien delegates. Humanity had waited 200 years for this moment. Earth had finally proven itself worthy of a seat at the Galactic Conclave. But there was one final test. Every species had to contribute something to the collective defense initiative. They had to show what they could offer to protect the galaxy. The Valkyrie went first. They were tall beings made of something like living crystal. Their ambassador waved his hand, and a hologram appeared in the center of the hall. It showed their newest warship. The vessel was beautiful. Its hull looked like frozen light. It moved through space like a dancer. The Harmony-class cruiser, the Valkyrie announced, powered by resonance technology, it can disable enemy ships without firing a single weapon. The hull repairs itself using sonic vibrations. The hall filled with polite applause. The Dromath went next. They were massive creatures with 4 arms and skin like stone. Their ship was the opposite of the Valkyrie vessel. It was huge and covered with weapons. Gravity cannons lined its sides. The hologram showed it tearing apart asteroid fields with a single shot. The Devastator-class dreadnought, the Dromath general said proudly, nothing can stand against its firepower. More applause. Louder this time. The Thessari presented their famous living ships. These vessels were grown from engineered coral over decades. They could heal any damage. They could think for themselves. They were works of art and weapons of war combined. Finally, it was humanity's turn. Elena nodded to her engineers. They activated their hologram projector. The image that appeared made the entire hall go silent. The ship was ugly. There was no other word for it. It was a box of metal covered in thick armor plates. No elegant curves, no beautiful design. Just layer after layer of protection wrapped around engines and guns. The weapons were simple railguns and missile tubes. The armor was plain steel and ceramic. This is the adamantine, Elena said, our contribution to galactic defense. For a long moment, nobody spoke. Then the Valkyrie ambassador made a sound that the translator struggled to convert. It came out as something between a laugh and a cough. Is this a joke? He asked. The Dromath general did not bother to hide his reaction. He laughed so hard that his whole body shook. Other delegates joined in. The sound of alien laughter filled the beautiful hall. You brought kinetic weapons? Someone called out. We stopped using those 1,000 years ago. Where are the energy shields? Another voice asked. This thing has no shields at all. It looks like a cargo container with guns attached. Elena waited for the laughter to die down. Her face showed no emotion. She had expected this reaction. Her engineers stood behind her with their jaws tight and their hands clenched. The conclave speaker was a Thessari elder named Voth. He was known for his diplomatic skill. Even he could not hide his surprise. Ambassador Vasquez, he said carefully, this appears to be a prototype. Surely you have more advanced vessels in development? No, Elena replied. This is what we built. This is what we believe in. But it has no shields, Voth said. How does it defend itself? With armor. If something hits us, we take the hit and keep fighting. The weapons are so primitive. Railguns fire simple metal projectiles. Simple projectiles moving at 20% of light speed. They hit hard. The laughter started again. Voth raised his hand to quiet the hall. We will accept humanity into the conclave, he announced. Your membership will be provisional until you develop more suitable technology. The adamantine will be assigned to patrol the rim sectors, far from any real danger. Elena bowed her head in acceptance. There was nothing else she could do. Humanity was the youngest species in the conclave. They had no power here. Not yet. As she walked out of the great hall, she passed the Valkyrie ambassador. He looked at her with what might have been pity. Do not feel bad, he said. Your species is still young. In a few thousand years, you might catch up to us. Elena stopped walking. She turned to face him. "We built the adamantine for one purpose," she said quietly, "to survive. Not to impress, not to win prizes, just to survive whatever the universe throws at us." The Velkari made that laughing sound again. "And what could the universe possibly throw at you that our beautiful ships cannot handle?" Elena did not answer. She just walked away with her team following behind her. 3 months later, the adamantine took its position in the empty rim sectors. Its crew of 200 humans settled in for what they expected to be a boring assignment. They had no idea that everything was about to change. Something old was waking up at the edge of the galaxy. Something that had destroyed civilizations before, and it was coming. The Keth-Vorian system was one of the busiest places in the galaxy. 4 billion people lived on its 3 habitable worlds. Cargo ships arrived every hour carrying goods from 100 different species. A combined fleet of Velkari and Dromath warships protected it. Nothing could threaten such a place. Then one day the messages stopped coming. At first the Conclave thought it was a technical problem. Communication equipment failed sometimes, but hours turned into days. Scout probes were sent to investigate. Most of them never came back. The few that returned carried corrupted data and broken images. Conclave Speaker Voth sat in his private chamber and watched the recovered footage. His hands trembled as he saw what the probes had recorded. The beautiful Velkari ships were shattered. Their crystal hulls floated in pieces through space. The massive Dromath dreadnoughts had been twisted into spirals of metal. Whatever had done this had treated the most powerful warships in the galaxy like toys. And in the background of every image, there was something moving, something huge. Dark shapes the size of cities drifting through the debris. Voth called an emergency meeting of the Conclave. The hall that had been full of laughter months ago was now filled with fear. "The harvesters have returned," Voth announced. The word sent a wave of terror through the assembled delegates. Every species in the galaxy knew the old stories. Every child learned about the harvesters before they learned to read. 50,000 years ago, the first conclave had ruled the galaxy. They had been far more advanced than any civilization that came after. They had ships that could travel between galaxies. They had weapons that could destroy stars. They thought they were safe. Then the harvesters came from beyond the galactic barrier. Nobody knew what they were. Machines without makers. Artificial minds with no purpose except to consume. They had stripped the first conclave of everything. Metal, energy, life. They had taken it all and left nothing but empty worlds and dead stars. The galaxy had spent 10,000 years in darkness after that. Civilizations rose from the ashes slowly. They found the old warnings. They read the ancient texts. But after 50,000 years of peace, most people thought the harvesters were just myths. Stories told to frighten children. They were wrong. "How is this possible?" the Velkari ambassador demanded. "Our ships are far more advanced than anything the first conclave had." "The harvesters adapt," Voth said quietly. "They learn. They evolve. Our ancestors left records. The harvesters study their enemies and become immune to their weapons." "Then we build new weapons," the Dromath general said. "We will try. But the harvesters are already moving toward the core worlds. We have perhaps 6 months before they reach populated systems." Far away in the rim sectors, Captain James Okonkwo received the emergency transmission. He was a tall man with dark skin and calm eyes. He had commanded the Adamantine for 2 years. Most of that time had been spent doing nothing interesting. Patrol routes, supply runs, escort missions for civilian ships. Now he read his new orders. All rim sector vessels were commanded to fall back to the core worlds. The Adamantine was specifically noted as not combat rated for this threat. Command wanted his ship far from the fighting, where it could not embarrass humanity by being destroyed quickly. Okonkwo looked at the civilian convoy his ship was currently escorting. 30 transport vessels carrying refugees from 3 different colony worlds. 30,000 people, including families with children. Old people who could not defend themselves. Young people with their whole lives ahead of them. The convoy was too slow to reach the core worlds before the harvesters cut off their route. If the adamantine left them, they would die. Okonkwo called his senior officers to the bridge. Lieutenant Commander Sarah Chen was his first officer. Chief Engineer Marcus Webb kept the ship running. Weapons Officer David Kim controlled their guns. Dr. Yuki Tanaka cared for the crew. You have all seen the reports, Okonkwo said. You know what is coming. Our orders are to retreat. And the convoy, Chen asked. They cannot make it without us. Nobody said anything. They all knew what Okonkwo was thinking. They all knew what he was going to do. Sir, Kim said slowly, the harvesters destroyed the best ships in the galaxy. Our vessel is considered a joke. What exactly can we do against them? Okonkwo looked at his weapons officer. Then he looked out the viewport at the stars. We can die slowly, he said. We can make them work for every inch of our hull. We can buy time. Time for what? For those 30,000 people to have a chance. He turned back to his officers. I am not ordering anyone to stay. Anyone who wants to take an escape pod can leave. I will not blame you. Nobody moved. Chen smiled slightly. Sir, the escape pods are even slower than the convoy. We would die anyway. Then we are agreed. Okonkwo sat down in his command chair. Navigation set course for the Keth Vorian relay point. We are going to meet these harvesters and show them what human stubbornness looks like. The adamantine turned toward the danger while the convoy moved in the opposite direction. The ugly human ship moved through space toward a battle it could not possibly win. But winning was not the point. Survival was not the point. Sometimes the point was just to stand in the way of the darkness and refuse to move. The adamantine dropped out of faster-than-light travel at the edge of the Keth Vorian debris field. What Captain Okonkwo saw made his stomach turn cold. Pieces of ships floated everywhere. Beautiful crystalline shards that had once been Velkari cruisers. Twisted metal that had once been Dromath dreadnoughts. Bodies drifted among the wreckage. Millions of tons of destroyed technology spread across thousands of kilometers. And in the middle of all this death, a single harvester ship worked without hurry. The machine was 3 kilometers long. It looked like nothing that should exist. Black metal covered its surface. Strange lights pulsed along its hull. Cutting beams reached out from its body to slice apart the debris and pull the pieces inside. It was feeding. Scanning the target, Kim reported from his station. Energy shields covering the entire hull. Adaptive frequency. It changes every few seconds. The Velkari weapons were energy-based, Chen said. So were the Drusmath gravity cannons. The shields just absorbed everything. Okonkwo nodded. Our railguns fire solid tungsten. No energy to absorb. Kim, load all forward batteries. Sir, that thing is 3 kilometers long. We are 200 meters. I am aware of the size difference. Fire when ready. The adamantine shuddered as its railguns activated. Tungsten rods the size of cars accelerated down magnetic rails. They left the ship at 60,000 kilometers per second, 20% of the speed of light. The first volley hit the harvester before it even noticed the human ship. Energy shields flickered and sparked. They were designed to redirect energy, not stop mass moving at relativistic speeds. The tungsten punched through like needles through cloth. The harvester shuddered. Pieces of its hull broke away. Internal systems vented atmosphere into space. Then it turned its attention to the adamantine. It sees us, Chen said quietly. Good. Kim, keep firing. Helm evasive pattern delta. The harvester moved faster than anything that size should be able to move. Its cutting beams swung toward the human ship. The first beam hit the adamantine on its port side. Ablative armor did what ablative armor was designed to do. The outer layers vaporized. They carried the heat away from the ship as they burned. The beam cut deep, but it did not reach the inner hull. Damage report, Okonkwo demanded. We lost sections 12 through 16 on the port side. Webb reported from engineering. Sealing bulkheads now. Backup systems are online. Another beam hit them. More armor burned away. The ship groaned like a wounded animal. Hull breach on deck 7, someone shouted. Emergency teams responding. Okonkwo gripped his chair. Keep firing. The railguns continued their work. Each volley tore new holes in the harvester. The machine adapted. It tried to dodge. It tried to use the debris as cover, but the adamantine kept hitting it. Sir, the harvester is targeting our weapon systems, Kim said. It is learning. Then we need to finish this fast. Okonkwo looked at his weapons officer. Prepare the hammer. Kim went pale. Sir, that weapon has never been tested in combat. The blast radius is enormous. We are too close. Prepare the hammer. The hammer was humanity's answer to enemies that would not die. It was not elegant. It was not precise. It was a missile the size of a shuttle wrapped in armor, thick enough to survive point defense fire. Inside that armor was a containment field. Inside that field was antimatter. A lot of antimatter. Hammer is ready, Kim reported. Sir, I have to tell you, at this range, the explosion might destroy us too. Might is better than will. The harvester will definitely kill us if we do not stop it. A cutting beam sliced through the bridge ceiling. 3 crew members died instantly. Sparks flew from damaged consoles. The lights flickered. Fire the hammer, Okonkwo ordered. The missile launched from the ventral bay. It was slow compared to the railgun rounds. The harvester saw it coming. Point defense weapons activated. Beams and projectiles hammered the incoming weapon. The armor held. The hammer hit the harvester directly in what sensors suggested was its central processing core. For 1 heartbeat, nothing happened. Then the antimatter containment failed. The explosion lit up the debris field like a new sun. The blast wave hit the adamantine and threw it tumbling through space. More hull sections tore away. More crew members died. Systems failed across the ship. When the light faded, the harvester was gone. Not retreating, not damaged. Gone. Pieces of black metal and strange circuitry spread across 1,000,000 kilometers of space. Damage report, Okonkwo said. His voice was steady even though blood ran down his face from a cut on his forehead. We have lost 30% of the hull, Webb reported. 62 crew members confirmed dead. Another 40 wounded. Engines are at half power. Most weapons are offline. But we are alive. Yes, sir, we are alive. Okonkwo looked at the expanding cloud of debris that had been the harvester. Get me a channel to Conclave Command, he said. I want to report that we killed one of these things. I want every scientist in the galaxy to know that kinetic weapons work. Across the galaxy, sensors recorded the impossible. A human ship, the ugly prototype that everyone had laughed at. It had destroyed a harvester. Nobody was laughing anymore. The news spread across the galaxy like fire. A human ship had killed a harvester. The ugly prototype had done what the beautiful fleets could not. At first, the Conclave dismissed it as luck. Captain Okonkwo had caught the enemy by surprise. His weapons happened to work against that particular harvester. It would not happen again. Then the harvesters adapted, and everything changed. The machines had spent 50,000 years learning how to defeat the first Conclave. Now they turned that same intelligence against the modern galaxy. They studied the Velkari crystal ships and found the resonance frequencies that would shatter them. They analyzed the Dromath gravity cannons and built shields that could deflect them. They infected the Thessari living ships with machine viruses that turned them against their own crews. Within 3 months, the elegant fleets were dying. The Velkari lost half their navy at the Battle of the Singing Void. Their beautiful cruisers vibrated themselves apart as the harvesters played frequencies through their hulls. The Dromath Devastator-class dreadnoughts fired their gravity cannons and watched the beams bounce back at them. The Thessari living ships went mad and crashed into space stations. Every time the Conclave built a new weapon, the harvesters learned to defeat it. Every time they developed a new shield, the machines found a way around it. The cycle of adaptation was impossible to win. But human weapons did not need to adapt. A tungsten rod moving at 20% of light speed did not care about shield frequencies. It did not care about adaptive algorithms. It just hit things very hard. The physics were too simple to outsmart. Earth's shipyards began to wake up. For centuries, humanity had built their industrial capacity quietly. They knew they were the youngest species in the galaxy. They knew they would need to catch up eventually. So they built factories and automated assembly lines and resource extraction facilities throughout their territory. Now those facilities went to work. A Velkari crystalline cruiser took 50 years to grow. A Dromath dreadnought required the resources of 3 planets and 10 years of construction. The Thessari living ships needed decades of careful cultivation. Humanity built an adamantine-class vessel in 3 weeks. The ships were ugly, they were crude. They had no elegant technology, but they came off the assembly lines in numbers that made the Conclave stare in disbelief. How is this possible? Voth demanded during an emergency session. You have only had spaceflight for 400 years. Ambassador Vasquez smiled slightly. We have had factories for much longer. We learned to mass-produce things while your ancestors were still painting on cave walls. Within 6 months, humanity had a fleet of 200 adamantine-class ships. They were not the biggest fleet in the galaxy. They were not the most advanced. But they were the only fleet that the Harvesters could not adapt to defeat. James Okonkwo was promoted to admiral. His first command was a task force of 40 human ships assigned to protect the Thessari homeworld. The living coral reefs of that planet produced medicines that the whole galaxy needed. If it fell, billions would die. The Harvesters sent a processing fleet of 100 ships. The Thessari defenders fell within the first hour. Their infected vessels turned on each other. Their orbital defenses went dark as machine viruses spread through their systems. Then the human fleet arrived. "All ships form on my position," Okonkwo ordered. "We are going straight through them. Fire at will." 40 ugly human ships drove into the heart of the Harvester formation. Railguns hammered constantly. Missiles filled the space between fleets. The Harvesters fired back with cutting beams and gravity weapons, and things that had no names. Human ships died, but they died slowly. Their thick armor absorbed punishment that would have vaporized anything else. Their redundant systems kept fighting when the primary systems failed. Their crews sealed breaches and put out fires and kept the guns shooting until there was nothing left to shoot with. When the battle ended, 23 human ships remained. The Harvester fleet was destroyed. Okonkwo looked at the casualty reports. 7,000 human crew members dead, 17 ships lost. The price of victory was terrible, but the Thessari homeworld was safe. 3 months later, Okonkwo led a combined fleet to the Harvester Coordination Hub. Intelligence had located it in a system at the edge of explored space. A structure the size of a small moon hung in the darkness. Thousands of processing ships surrounded it. "That hub controls all of them," the Velkari fleet commander explained. "Destroy it and the entire Harvester network goes offline." The elegant fleets served as distractions. They flew in patterns designed to confuse. They fired weapons they knew would fail just to keep the Harvesters busy. They sacrificed themselves by the hundreds. And through the chaos, the human ships pushed forward. The Adamantine II led the charge. Okonkwo stood on its bridge as the ship absorbed hit after hit. Armor plates burned away. Systems failed. Crew members died at their stations. "We're in range," Kim reported. He was still the weapons officer. He had refused any transfer. "All ships deploy hammers." 12 missiles launched from 12 surviving human vessels. 12 antimatter warheads found their targets. The coordination hub exploded. The light of its death was visible from star systems light years away. Across the galaxy, Harvester ships went silent. Their controlling intelligence was gone. Without the hub to guide them, they were just machines. Empty shells drifting through space. The war was over. The Great Hall of Thesser Prime was quieter than it had been a year ago. Many seats were empty. Many species had lost too many representatives to fill them. The crystal pillars still rose toward the ceiling, but some of them had cracks now. The living glass walls had dim patches where damage had never fully healed. Ambassador Elena Vasquez walked into the hall again. This time nobody laughed. This time the delegates rose from their seats as she entered. It was a sign of respect that few species had ever received. Conclave Speaker Voth waited at the center of the chamber. His scales had turned gray with age and stress. The war had cost him much. "Ambassador Vasquez," he said formally, "the conclave has gathered to address the new reality of our galaxy." Elena nodded and took her place. "1 year ago, humanity presented a ship that we mocked," Voth continued. "We called it primitive. We called it crude. We assigned it to patrol empty space where it could not embarrass us." He paused. The silence in the hall was complete. "We were fools." Voth turned to face the assembled delegates. "The elegant fleets of the conclave failed against the Harvesters. Our advanced technology was useless. Billions of our citizens died because we trusted in sophistication over survival." He looked back at Elena. "Humanity saved us. Their ugly ships, their primitive weapons, their stubborn refusal to die. We owe them a debt that can never be repaid." The Velkari ambassador stood. He was not the same one who had laughed at Elena before. That one had died at the Battle of the Singing Void. "I speak for my people," he said. "We request human advisors for our shipyards. We want to learn how to build vessels that survive." The Dromath general rose next. The Dromath Empire requests human engineers for our defense grids. We need weapons that cannot be adapted against. One by one, the representatives of 100 species made similar requests. They wanted human help, human knowledge, human stubbornness built into their own fleets. Elena waited until they were finished, then she spoke. You were not wrong about our technology, she said. It is primitive. Our weapons are simple. Our ships are ugly. We have nothing elegant to offer you. She looked around the hall. But we have something else. We have survival. Elena walked to the center of the chamber. Holograms appeared around her showing images of Earth. Volcanoes erupting, hurricanes destroying cities, ice ages covering continents, asteroids falling from the sky. Humanity evolved on a death world, she explained. Our planet tried to kill us every day for millions of years. Earthquakes, plagues, predators, disasters. We survived all of it. The images changed. Ancient humans hunting with stone tools. Medieval humans dying from disease. Modern humans building cities that were knocked down by wars and rebuilt. We learned that elegant solutions fail when conditions turn hostile. The beautiful thing breaks first. The sophisticated system crashes when you need it most. The only technology you can trust is the technology that keeps working no matter what happens. She let the holograms fade. You built ships for efficiency. We built ships for survival. There is a difference. Voth nodded slowly. We understand now, but understanding came at a terrible cost. That is how the universe teaches, Elena replied. It does not care about beauty. It only cares about what survives. The conclave voted to grant humanity full membership, more than full membership. They created a new position called Guardian of the Rim. Humanity would be responsible for watching the edge of the galaxy, for building the first line of defense against whatever came next. Because something always came next. Admiral James Okonkwo watched the ceremony from the observation deck of the Adamantine II. The ship had been rebuilt after the battle at the coordination hub. It was still ugly, still covered in thick armor and simple weapons, but now it was also a legend. Lieutenant Commander Chen stood beside him. She had refused promotion. She wanted to stay on the ship that had become famous. Do you think they actually learned anything? She asked. Okonkwo considered the question. Below them, through the viewport, he could see the shipyards of Earth. Hundreds of Adamantine-class vessels were under construction. Thousands of human workers built the crude machines that had saved the galaxy. Some of them learned, he said, the ones who lost enough people, the ones who felt real fear. And the others will forget. They always do. In a few hundred years, they will be building elegant ships again. They will laugh at our ugly boxes and talk about how primitive humans are. Chen frowned. Then what was the point? Why did we fight so hard? Okonkwo turned away from the viewport. Because saving people is always the point, even if they forget, even if they go back to their old ways. We did what was right when it mattered. He walked toward the bridge. Besides, we know the truth now. When the next threat comes, the galaxy will remember who saved them. They will come to us for help, and we will be ready. The shipyards hummed with activity around them. Crude vessels, brutal designs, machines built not to impress anyone, but to survive whatever the universe threw at them. Humanity had earned its place among the stars, not through elegance, not through sophistication, through stubbornness and thick armor and the simple refusal to die. The galaxy had laughed at their prototype. Now the galaxy built monuments to it, and somewhere in the darkness beyond the galactic barrier, something stirred. Something that had been watching, something that would come eventually. When it did, humanity would be waiting. Ugly ships ready, simple weapons loaded, standing between the light and whatever wanted to consume it. That was what humans did. That was what humans had always done. They survived.